Hi, welcome to my thoughts on House of David, Season 2, Episode 5. A couple of quick things to address. One, my baby's gone. Uh, my bass has had some issues recently with its intonation. Once you get up past about the fourth fret, it starts to go sharp on me, and I was unable to get the bridge set correctly by myself, so it is with a guitar tech right now. So that is absent until I've been told probably next week. And I will probably record another video before then, so it will be gone, absent from both my videos and my heart. Also, I'm going to change the format of these a little bit. For the last 4 episodes, I have not seen the episode until watching and recording it with you, because that way I got my honest reaction. But I found that as I'm editing them, I tend to think of things that I wish that I had said and would like to say. But with the setup that I have, it's not really possible for me to just jump in and give those inserts. I was actually editing them at my job in like the cafeteria area, not really conducive to suddenly recording more stuff. So I'm going to start watching the episodes once before I do that. This is the first time. So I have seen this, and it is pretty good. It's got some really fun action sequences in it, which I definitely enjoy. But that to say, I did make some notes while I was editing the previous episode, and so these are some of the things that I want to bring up and discuss as far as things that I have some slight issues with or liked. I've been meaning to say this for a while, that the clips that I show generally should not be a reflection on pacing or acting ability, or sometimes even writing, because in order to try to get around copyright stuff, I am chopping these clips up to within an inch of their life. So rest assured, if you have not been able to see this and you're using this as an indication, it is way better than it looks for what I'm showing. I know, especially when I'm doing fight sequences, like I'm cutting full 2-3 minutes at a time, just in order to give an idea of the flow of a fight. But they are better choreographed than they look in my videos, so please do not let that be something that stops you from watching this show. The scenes are usually a lot slower paced than I show, because I'm cutting out, gaps in dialogue, people's facial expressions and reactions to stuff like that, and the actors, really taking their time with a line. And so the acting and the writing and the pacing, it's all way better than is shown in my videos. And I'm sure most of you are smart enough and know enough to assume that, but I did want to clarify that that is the case. It's way better than I am letting you see. Strike that. It's way better than YouTube is letting you see. So one of the things that came up in my rewatching is I would like to ask the showrunners why the memory of going to the tabernacle was in black and white, because there were a few flashbacks in the previous season and they never went to black and white. I don't understand that decision, and I find it odd. I did also find it funny that looking back, I said that they were kind of showing that Yoav was more willing to do what was supposed to be done, but then they kind of proved me wrong in this last episode, where his willingness to kill that entire family really showed that he is not a man of strong character. He is a man of extreme duty. And so he killed the witch because she was a threat to Israel. He killed the family because they were a threat to Israel. He has extreme devotion, and I'm not sure what they're really trying to show by showing him versus Avner. I think it makes him look more like a blind killing machine, which you do kind of get that sense about him in the biblical narrative. He is willing to do some stuff in the Bible, so it does make sense. But the contrast of showing him versus Avner, which in this next episode they are kind of showing why Avner would have been a little bit hesitant, but not really sure what's going on there. Also, as I was thinking about it, anytime there's the conflict of the peaceful person and the man of war, and all I see is a killer, and I don't know if I can be with you, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. But I thought that may be my personal worldview. But looking back on it, it's nonsense inside of this context. This was a period of history where Israel was constantly in threat of being invaded, and not even under threat of. People were constantly trying to invade Israel. This woman lives in Israel, and she would not have a hang up about somebody who is constantly fighting to defend Israel, and she would see her brother as a hero for being willing to sacrifice his life in order to protect their country. That it's a very much so a modern sensibility being written into a past situation that it doesn't make any sense. This is a society where they are on the verge of being wiped out constantly. There are wars going on forever. There are almost no expansionist fights at this point except for taking back previously lost territory. The Philistines, the Amalekites, the Amorites, a bunch of other ites and enes it's one battle after another. I believe just in the span between David being anointed and becoming king, he fights something like 70. He fights something like 12 wars, and that's only like a 10-year period. It is insane how much people were trying to get rid of and or enslave the nation of Israel in this period. No one would look at a soldier as, oh, you're just a violent person. No, they're literally trying to save your life, and it just doesn't make a lick of sense in this context, and I kind of dislike it. The moment of having Eshbal struggling to get onto the horse was really dumber than I even made it out to be when I was commenting on it. We have seen him get on a horse. We know he knows how to ride a horse. It wasn't like some pampered prince who had never ridden a horse. He rode a horse to get his now wife, and he rode a horse bringing his now wife. This is not the first time he's gotten on a horse. Why did we have to have a moment of him struggling to get on a horse? It was a trope that they just decided to throw in without any thought to the past. And also him being impressed with her getting on the horse when, again, he had seen her get on a horse. That whole scene was like, it was pretending that nothing prior to that moment had happened before. It was dumb. It was dumb. I will call that out. It was dumb. I didn't give it enough credit. All of the scenes in the episode between David and Merav were very well written and very sweet. And really, it did kind of build a connection, but it was also well written enough that it gave you the impression that it might lead to more, but it was very much so not romantic. It was definitely friendship that was being developed, which again, I said that in a future story, there is a hint of friendship in the biblical narrative because she saves his life, I believe in defiance of Saul, if I remember correctly. So having these moments to build their friendship was a really good idea, and I'm glad that they did it, and I like how they did it. Just well done. The scene between Michael and David when she is saying that she's going to let him go was very well written. I loved how it talked about her duty as a princess versus her desires and her being afraid that they're just being selfish. I liked it. It was very well written. It was written to where you could tell she was not being calloused, but she also felt like it was the right thing to do, not just I'm giving up. It really leaned into the sense of what it means to be a princess, which I liked. It was good. I really enjoyed the pressure that they put on Eliav in the flashback of he feels like as the oldest, it is his job to redeem their family and redeem that shame, which again, I'm still not on board with the fact that they put it there in the first place. But having that pressure explains why he's always so intense and just can't relax about anything, and he is super frustrated with David anytime he does something to jeopardize that. But also now we have this whole sense of David might actually be redeeming the family themselves, and Eliav is going through a identity crisis of, well, what have I been working at for so long if what I did doesn't actually help? It was well written and did a lot to explain his character, and it made sense with what has been presented. It still didn't make any sense why he was constantly trying to get David out of the palace, like it was David's fault that he was there. That still, it was silly. I did make a little bit of comment, but I am really not sure how I feel about it appearing that Saul is starting an affair with this handmaiden. It doesn't feel correct. Like he just felt betrayed by his wife, and we haven't really had anything about sexual frustration or anything. And so him just immediately jumping into bed with somebody else, especially since we established that they were childhood sweethearts and had been together forever and were definitely in love with each other. We're only at like 2 months since Saul got back, and he didn't find out about how things had gone weird until 2 weeks after that. So we're at 6 weeks of him being frustrated with his wife, and then he just had that final blowout, which was when he really just lost faith in her at the end of that. And so it's like 2 days. I don't buy that they have been distant long enough for him to just abruptly decide to do that. Which, granted, in this era, kings were way more free with that kind of thing. So I don't know. I did make a little bit of a comment on it at the time, but I just wanted to go deeper. The contrast between Saul and David at the atonement ceremony, it was so good. It was so well handled, so well shot, and it didn't feel like they were making a point. Saul is at this atonement ceremony, which is about removing everyone's sins for the for the entire land of Israel, and it's the most holy day of the year for them. There's so many rules about what they have to do at the time, and he tries to make it about himself as the king. Even Samuel isn't making it about himself, and he's the one performing the ceremony. And then David is just broken by his sin and what he did wrong, and really leads everyone else to feel anguish at their sin, and Saul immediately just kind of brushes it off. And it continued to show that David was a more godly man in his desires and what he wanted out of life, and he wants to please God. He does royally screw up later, but for now, at this point in his life, that's what he wants, is he wants to be a godly man, and Saul just wants to still be king. And he's focused on his own glory and his own power, and the contrast in that moment was very well handled. And this was just kind of a choice that I didn't notice at the time, but in rewatching, it was different from what people would normally do. When David is singing a song and kneeling in front of the altar, a lot of times what a director would start to do in that moment is have some instrumentation come in behind him. But they made the decision that it was just him singing a cappella by himself for that entire sequence. And it goes on for a while. It's like a minute and a half, I think, of just him singing and emoting, and his performance in it was really good. And I love the fact that they left him hanging there, even diegetically. There was no music behind him to back it up. It was just the performance, which I wonder if they had that as a backup plan, if they felt like he didn't do quite a good enough job to carry it, and he just nailed it well enough that they didn't feel the need to do it. I don't know, but I'm really glad that they did not add any music, and it was just David's voice. That was a great decision.